Now, we are getting word just into the newsroom right now. Breaking news. Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York has officially resigned. We are just getting this in. Let's take a live listen right now.
And my resignation will be effective in 14 days. To my team, it was beautiful to see, and it was an honor to lead. Please.
And that is Governor Andrew Cuomo officially announcing he is resigning from his post, and that will take effect in 14 days. Right now, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We will be following this throughout the day online and on air as well. We'll be right back. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is easing its guidelines for those who are fully vaccinated, paving the way for safe and long-awaited visits with family and friends. Let's break this down. The CDC says fully vaccinated people can visit people who have not gotten the vaccine without restrictions. Breaking news developing in California right now. There are multiple people dead in a shooting in San Jose. This is a live feed of the scene as authorities are continuing to respond to the incident. Well, starting with election coverage, let's first check in with the local scene in the northern tier. Pennsylvania is positioned to be one of the key states which will decide the winner of the 2020 presidential election. WENY's Sarah Herbakowitz joins us live now from the northern tier, where she spoke with voters in Sayre.
WENY's Isabel Garcia joins us live from State Street in Ithaca, where the rally is set to happen in just about an hour. Isabel, what's the overall goal?
Yes, good afternoon, Caitlin. Now, this rally, which kicks off at 1 o'clock in front of the Southern Tier AIDS Program site, which is the building you see just over my shoulder here on State Street. And this is just one of many events happening across the state throughout the month of July, with the overall goal, as you mentioned, to raise awareness about the extreme spike of opioid deaths across the country. Now, of course, with games, you got to have some prizes. So each participant in the senior games will receive a special commemorative 30th anniversary t-shirt, as well as a free lunch pail. And of course, for some of you, maybe even some medals. The Yates County Sheriff tells me years ago, due to increased boater traffic on certain lakes such as Keuka and Canandaigua, they enacted speed limits of 45 miles an hour during the day and 25 miles an hour at night. That's not the case, however, on Seneca.
Seneca, being the largest of the Finger Lakes, has no speed limit. Other than within 100 feet of the shoreline, the speed limit is 5 miles per hour on any waterway in New York State.
When it comes to water safety, speed is just one of many factors boaters need to be aware of, especially when it comes to the range of watercraft.
We might see everything from personal watercraft, jet skis, to inflatable boats, to kayaks, to cabin cruisers, to just runabouts, sailboats, just about anything is out there on Seneca.
Speaking on the fatal accident which occurred this past weekend in Gates County, Schuyler County Sheriff Bill Yesman says while the investigation is ongoing, it may have been something avoidable.
And I don't know if there could have been a mechanical failure that caused it to make a sudden turn and eject all the passengers, but that'll come out in the investigation. But any loss of life is a tragedy.
Brianna's Law now making it mandatory statewide for all boating operators to complete a safety course regardless of age by 2025.
A lot of people would just go get on a boat and go without knowing any of the laws and regulations, whether they have to have PFDs on board, a horn, other safety, flares, anchor on board. They just get the boat and go out there, and it creates a very hazardous situation.
Sheriff Yesman also saying to be aware of the recent weather patterns that have been happening before taking to the waters, including rain like we've had in these last couple of days, being mindful of debris in the water, anything from downed leaves to even downed trees underneath of the waterways. We'll post all the information about Brianna's Law in this article on our website at WENY.com. For now, reporting in Watkins Glen, Isabel Garcia, WENY News. Well, just as my desk at home has transitioned now into my workplace, it's the same scenario for students and teachers alike, along with parents and working. One local mom of 2 kids who's also working talked with me about the continued challenges the pandemic is having on her and her family.
I thought in my brain that by now things would be comfortable, and it's still not. There's still so many challenges and there's still so many unknowns.
Jeanette Lasco is a mom making it work in the pandemic. Like so many others, she is managing how to navigate in a world with no compass.
I feel like there's something new every day, some other issue that we hadn't thought of or hadn't anticipated. And, we thought this would be done by now.
That feeling, Jeanette explains, is shared by her two kids, Connor, who is 13, and Hannah, who is 12.
What have you been seeing through their eyes through all this?
I feel bad for them that they are missing out on some of the typical experiences that a middle school kid would have. Like my daughter was saying that she doesn't get to go to the dances. They don't get to have the concerts. They don't get to have the hangouts with friends, the big group of people that go to the mall and things like that.
Jeanette tells me she is grateful to have family close by to help with Connor and Hannah, which also allows her to still work.
We are blessed to have my mother because she watches them the 3 days that they're not in school because they're in the hybrid schedule. And so they go to school 2 days and then they're with her 3 days.
So what's her method to creating some sense out of all the chaos?
Write everything down. That is really how I survive I have my schedule, I have the kids' schedule, especially for a while when we were all remote learning and I was remote teaching. It was important that I had a schedule so I knew who had to be on the Zoom at what point in time and when were our breaks so that we could eat, so that I could help the kids do things, so that I could take care of the dogs, and do all the things that need to be done.
The key word everybody says is unprecedented, but it's really about unpredictability.
Also learning to adapt, the school districts themselves. Horsehead Superintendent Dr. Thomas Douglas reflects on the early stages of the pandemic.
Unfortunately, in Horseheads, we had the initial major outbreak in the state with the Lighthouse Baptist Church in this area, which immediately went to community spread. And by the start of October, we had over 200 cases that we were in quarantine, which meant we were having difficulty keeping staffing levels where they needed to be.
I've never worked harder in my life.
Teachers, of course, too, shifting how they do their jobs. Dora Leland has been teaching 7th grade history for decades.
It's almost like the homework boundaries have been so blurred. I will be on my couch watching television, and then 9 o'clock at night, I will respond to a student who's having trouble on a homework assignment or on a particular writing assignment that I gave. And it's just something that I would never have imagined doing. But being an educator, we can't imagine not helping.
Just as Jeanette explained, seeing the changing world differently through her own children's eyes, Dora tells me many of the obstacles she encounters are alleviated through her students' resilience.
Frustration on some days is so overwhelming, but then some student will say something so sweet or so goofy, it'll kind of smooth over just that overwhelming sense of despair.
And with all of these moving parts in our rapidly evolving COVID-era society, how does one take care of themselves?
I'm always preaching to people that self-care is your best friend. Try to take some time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there.
And as a working parent myself, I wouldn't be able to do my job without the incredible support of my mother-in-law and my husband. It truly does take a village for us to all get through this health crisis together. With this special report, I'm Isabel Garcia for WENY News.
The rate of newborns suffering from drug withdrawal in the state of Pennsylvania has increased by more than 1,000% over the past decade, and this also includes Tioga County.
These are shocking figures. However, one woman is working to make an ambitious change at the state level. WENY's Isabel Garcia joins us in the studio to share her story in this special report. Isabel.
Yes, Robin Adams is the adoptive mother of Asa. Asa was born addicted to opioids, causing him to have an array of complications in the very early years of his life. Robin is now working to create the state's first pediatric recovery center in Tioga County, named after her son, called Asa's Place.
Can you show me how it works, honey?
Meet Robin Adams.
Like that?
Her adoptive son Asa was born prematurely with a low birth weight of just 3 pounds. Asa was also born experiencing drug withdrawal in a condition called neonatal abstinence syndrome, or NAS.
The inability to console him was really prominent. He couldn't sleep for more than about 20 to 30 minutes at a time. We didn't know anything about NAS, so we didn't know any of the symptoms to be looking for.
Any infant that's born to a mother with a substance abuse problem or disorder during pregnancy is at risk for developing neonatal abstinence syndrome. It is a spectrum of symptoms that reflects dysregulation within the nervous system. So almost drug withdrawal in the setting of our nervous system continuing to develop.
In Pennsylvania, NAS in newborns increased over the past decade at a staggering rate of 1,000%. Now, while Tioga County appears to have a lower rate compared to other parts of the state, there are some loopholes in how those numbers are reported. It becomes especially complicated when factoring in that the local hospital is equipped to only handle low-level deliveries.
If we have a pregnancy that we've identified is going to have issues, we really try to plug them into maternal fetal medicine and higher level nurseries so that they can deliver safely there. Here, we don't have all of those services for those at-risk babies or premature babies.
It's reported as an NAS birth or an overdose in that area where the child was born or the overdose occurs, so we don't get the numbers.
However, the method in how data is collected is changing. In October 2018, Governor Tom Wolf's Act 54 became law. It requires any healthcare provider who has a child born to a mother with substance abuse problems during the pregnancy to be reported to the state.
Tracking those numbers will really help us quantify the number of treatment beds that are needed to adequately treat kind of the children who are the forgotten victims of the opioid epidemic that we are experiencing locally and nationally.
We have prevention and we have treatment for adults. We just are missing a little bit of pulling those components together to really focus on how do we scale that down? What does the child need?
In comes Ace's Place, Robin's passion project she's developed through her experiences with her son. Ace's Place will have 3 programmatic components to its functions. The first includes a residential pediatric recovery center to serve infants with NAS, along with their mothers, all in the same location outside of a hospital setting. And this is something just made possible at the federal level through President Trump's opioid bill signed last fall.
The problem has been it's a real undertaking with licensure and regulations and statute to try to name the type of nonprofit that I'm running and then have somebody license it. So Ace's Place gets a little cumbersome with the newborns in that it will likely be Department of Health oversight and have a medical component. Here I hope to have 6 nursery rooms to serve 6 babies and a rooming-in component for their mothers, family to visit. Again, all of the caseworkers and wraparounds come to the child. That is going to be likely in a separate location that I haven't found yet.
The 2 remaining elements of Ace's Place are driven by parent substance abuse in Tioga County. First, a court-appointed special advocacy program.
Tioga County does not have a CASA program. We'll be the first, and we are well underway in getting established with national CASA.
And finally, a children's advocacy center that would serve child victims of abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, or neglect.
We're serving the newborns to make sure that their safety is first, that there's a permanency option for them, that reunification is an achievable goal if we're treating mom and dad and immediate family members. But we're also looking at those children that have already been removed or will be removed from their homes and enter dependency court as a foster child, to get them the advocacy that they deserve and need to move them through that system quickly.
Robin says she hopes to make a difference by setting an example for how addiction and treatment are handled by communities all across the nation.
When people talk about stigma and addiction, it's real. And I'm hoping to break through that to show folks that certainly these babies and these children deserve more of us. And they deserve our attention, they deserve our dollars, they deserve our time and energy and effort. And if we give them even a third of what I'm asking, you get an amazing, beautiful, loving child in return.
And if you're wondering how Asa is doing, Robin says he's your typical 4-year-old boy who loves running around, playing with his toys, and learning new things. We'll continue to follow the progress of Ace's Place and its impact both in the community and the state. With this special report, I'm Isabel Garcia.